Welcome to the first UCL Fantasy video of the 2021-2022 season. This is going to be a first draft video where I talk about what I have right now. There's going to be a lot of changes before the team selection, which is also going to be coming to the channel within the coming weeks. Same with deadline streams, and you can always tune in with me there, ask any question or pose any comment, and you can interact with the rest of the community and myself. And also there's going to be beginner tutorials for those of you who are new to the game, and also just those of you who need a refresh. So without further ado, let's head into the video. Most of us know the groups by now, but let's have a little recap of how they are looking like so we can highlight some of the teams we can target for the group stages. And remember, we have two chips available to us, and this is something I will talk about also in my tutorial guides. We have the Limitless chip and the wild card, and it tends to be a popular strategy to kind of play them in the group stages, but maybe it's worth saving one of them, especially the wild card, in the knockout stages, and it's something that we've looked at in Euro 2020 fantasy football. But the groups are, in Group A, Manchester City, Paris Saint-Germain, Leipzig and Club Brugge. And to be honest, if we look at the first two groups, they both look like the groups of death at this moment in time. Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, Porto and AC Milan complete Group B. So when you're looking at these two, there can be some good assets here and there, but ultimately it might be a bit complicated in certain match days, and it might be kind of beneficial to play a chip here and there if we have too many of these sorts of players. For example, Gundogan from Manchester City, Messi from PSG, and from Liverpool, Salah, for example. But yeah, those two groups look really, really tough. There's not really a particular standout. Manchester City and PSG you'd expect to go through, but it's just a question of who is in first place. In Group B, of course, you'd probably expect Liverpool or Atletico Madrid to top the group, but the other two teams are also good. Group C, Sporting Lisbon, Borussia Dortmund, Ajax and Besiktas. You'd say it's quite an even group, but Dortmund are the standout, and Haaland could be a fantastic option. He's been the best Champions League player in the last few seasons alongside Lewandowski, and he could do the business once again. In Group D, we've got Inter Milan, Real Madrid, Shakhtar. Pretty much a recap of last season, to be honest, of their group. And we also have a new team, Sheriff. Let's see how they do, but ultimately you'd expect them to finish last. Bayern Munich, Barcelona, Benfica, Dynamo Kiev. I believe Dynamo Kiev were in Barcelona's group last season. And yeah, Bayern, Barca. You'd probably expect Bayern to top the group with Barca in second. But yeah, there are still kind of some good picks from every single group, to be honest. And then Villarreal, Manchester United, Atalanta, Young Boys. It's a decent group, you know, very evenly matched for the rest of the teams, but Manchester United are the clear favourites and they should get the revenge on Villarreal for the Europa League final. Then you look at Group G, Lille, last season's Ligue 1 winners, but they look very, very poor at the moment. You've got Sevilla, don't know why I spoke like that by the way, Salzburg and Wolfsburg, so quite an even group. There's not a standout. Maybe Sevilla could be the ones finishing top, and they had a strong Champions League campaign last season in the group stages. Maybe they can do it again. You'd expect them to go through, and maybe they're the team to target in this group, or at least to go for. And in Group H, Chelsea, Juventus, Zenit and Malmo. So really, when you look at all these groups, we kind of know who will qualify, the top two. There might be a surprise here and there always is, but Chelsea and Juventus you'd expect to advance. And now let's look at Matchday 1 fixtures, which are very important, before me breaking down my current first draft, which by the way is going to be going under a lot of work. There's going to be many changes, but to start the campaign we've got Sevilla versus Salzburg and Young Boys against Manchester United, the first games on the Tuesday of the 14th of September at 5:45 UK time. And yeah, I mean, there could actually be quite a lot of good assets. And when you look at the Tuesday and Wednesday games, it's very important to have a balance between both days, because there's obviously the captaincy, which is different to FPL, and I'll be talking about that in a bit. Dynamo Kiev against Benfica, Chelsea against Zenit, Malmo against Juventus, Barcelona against Bayern. That's definitely the standout game of Matchday 1 on the Tuesday. Then we have Lille against Wolfsburg. And then to complete the games on Wednesday, a lot of other games. Besiktas against Dortmund, Sheriff against Shakhtar, Internazionale, aka Inter Milan against Real Madrid, Sporting Lisbon against Ajax, Atletico Madrid against Porto, Liverpool face Milan, obviously, you know, memories of that 2005 final, Manchester City play Leipzig, and Club Brugge against Paris Saint-Germain. Can I even speak properly? Probably not. But yeah, those are the games for Matchday 1. and there's some good ones in there, particularly Barcelona against Bayern. But here we go into the team that I have currently. And yeah, you know, you can completely slate it in the comment section below. I completely understand it, but it is a first draft. There are going to be changes. By the way, on the left-hand side of your screen, you can see the league code. So if you want to join my UCL Fantasy League, you can do so. The league code is 50ANUSPK08, and also in the description below there's going to be an auto join link, and the code is there as well. You can copy and paste it into the UCL Fantasy website and you can automatically join the league. So hopefully that covers that. In terms of this team, I'll be honest, I made most of it when there was no fixtures really announced, so I was mainly looking at the players I wanted, and I'll be explaining some of these picks because, for example, you could look at the Porto defender in there, Zaidu, and you'll be like, what is he doing in there? You're right, but there's a reason why, although he could be changed in the end because, as I discussed earlier, Porto's group is very difficult. Group B is looking very, very grim for Porto, although they are still a decent team. They had a great run last season in the Champions League. So in goal, Mendy was last season's top scorer. I mean, no surprise really. He can get the occasional save point, but with him, you just tend to get clean sheets, and his record was absolutely sensational for Chelsea, and they literally had the best record of any champion, any European champion in history. So yeah, Edouard Mendy is, I'd say, a no-brainer, and there's a few kind of red herrings, a few players who are not worth it in goals. For example, you look at Oblak at 6.5 million. I just think he's not worth the extra $500,000 on Mendy, who's probably going to get even more clean sheets than Oblak, who is in a tougher group. But Mendy is definitely my first choice in goal. I'm not really too convinced by the other options because Chelsea and City, they're pretty much the two teams I look at, and I think they have the best defences. I can trust them. In terms of save points, they're not going to be too frequent, so you're mainly looking at 6 points, but I'd rather have that than the occasional 2 to 3, 4 that you get from someone who gets a lot of saves but not enough clean sheets. So with Mendy, it's literally looking at the clean sheets, looking at Chelsea's defence and just really digging it. And then we have Azpilicueta, and just double Chelsea defence makes complete sense. Azpilicueta's 5 million and he gets ball recovery points. That's a thing in UCL Fantasy, and I'll be discussing that in my beginner's tutorial. But for every 3 ball recoveries made by any player, you earn a point. That's why defensive midfielders, centre backs, and any of these sorts of players who make a lot of tackles and recover the ball, they are very, very important and they offer a lot of value. So it's not just about the goals and assists like it is in FPL, but Azpilicueta is a fantastic choice. Another one who scored a lot of points last season, and yeah, he just had a great points to minute ratio. So really happy with him. I would probably be doubling up on Chelsea even in my team selection, but that can change. But yeah, Azpilicueta is looking like a great option. If not Rudiger, you can also go for one of their fullbacks. Christensen's another, but I'm going for Azpilicueta at the moment, their captain. And then here we go. Zaidu, he did great last season, 59 points, and remember, Porto got knocked out in the quarter-finals, but he also gets a lot of ball recovery points. And look here, 44 balls recovered and he earned 12 points. This is what I'm on about. It's absolutely insane. And in terms of yellow cards, didn't get any of them. Did concede only a few goals really. But yeah, Zaidu is looking really good. The problem with him really is the group. You know, Atletico Madrid, Liverpool, AC Milan. When are they going to get a clean sheet? Maybe 2 max. I'd be very surprised if they got any more than that, but he can still do well despite that. And there were other kind of players who, you know, really stood out despite not getting too many clean sheets last season, like Christian Romero. Zaidu could do the same again today, or should I say this season, but it's going to be very difficult. So maybe I will go off him, but 4.5 million for someone who can get so many points from ball recoveries, it's a very good price regardless. And then we have Ruben Dias, very, very tough fixtures in Leipzig and PSG. So maybe I will go off him, but in terms of Manchester City players, I just want those who are nailed. And I think Ruben Dias could be it. And yeah, of course, one of the highest scoring players last season, 60 points, won UEFA Defender of the Season. And of course, he was very solid for Manchester City. Will they kind of have a similar run defensively as they did last season? I'm not so sure, but this season so far, Manchester City have been very good once again defensively. They're not conceding too many goals, and in the last 2 games, you know, 10 goals conceded, or should I say 10 goals scored, 0 conceded, and their XG conceded is literally 0.15 across 2 matches, which is absolutely insane, by the way. So Ruben Dias is a good choice, although at 6 million, not too much attacking threat. That is something to, say, but he's going to get plenty of ball recovery points. Maybe not as much as Cancelo when he starts, but Ruben Dias is still a good choice. And then Rafael Varane, it could easily be Marquinhos or someone else, but I've gone for Varane because of the fixtures, and I think having one United player is probably the best thing to do. Of course, you'd probably prefer having their attacking assets. I don't think Manchester United are particularly great defensively, but with Varane in the side, they kept a clean sheet against Wolves. He got the assist for the winner, Mason Greenwood's late winner that they scored against Wolves. I think Varane could do the business, and he gets ball recovery points as well. He didn't play too much last season, but of course, he's a seasoned veteran in Champions League. He's won it so many times, so I think he's a good option too. And then to complete the defense, it's quite expensive. Virgil van Dijk, he's looking very good since coming back from injury. He's also another one who, he got 0 points last season. He never played, but he tends to get ball recovery points, and I think he could be a fantastic option. And is Trent worth that extra $500,000, same with Robertson, on Van Dijk? Maybe not because of ball recoveries, but of course that is open to debate, and it's not like you have to go for Van Dijk. You could also go for Trent or someone else, but maybe just saving that extra $500,000 can go a long way with improving the rest of your squad. But I really like Virgil van Dijk, and he is in as well. And just to kind of talk about this $4 million keeper, I just have him really at the moment, but I will be analysing and looking at the other goalkeeper options around $4 million, because honestly, I just don't want to really have too expensive goalkeepers, despite UCL Fantasy kind of rewarding teams that have a lot of squad depth because you can make manual substitutions. I'll be talking about that after I discuss my midfield and attack. I've got Jorginho, the UEFA Player of the Year, and really with him, he's on penalties. Maybe Lukaku will take them, but he was on penalties, Jorginho, and he can get ball recovery points. So he's a decent option. He's cheap. That's pretty much the kind of main bread and butter with him. The ball recoveries is the main kind of attraction. Without them, I probably wouldn't be, looking at him. I mean, look at that. 80 balls recovered. I mean, I didn't even see that. 23 points last season. Absolutely insane. He does get a lot of yellow cards though. That's something to kind of look at. And he can miss the occasional penalty, but Jorginho can be really good value at 6 million. Then we've got Mohamed Salah. 10.5 million euros for this guy is an absolute bargain. There's also Bruno Fernandes, but with Ronaldo coming in, I'm just not too sure about Bruno Fernandes. But Mohamed Salah, 10.5 million. Very tough group, but I think he can still do really well. 63 points, despite Liverpool being knocked out quite early. So yeah, Salah's just one of the best fantasy assets that you can get. So not much to talk about with him. Now, this guy is always underrated. No, not Lionel Messi. We'll talk about him later. Wilmar Barrios. This guy is a ball recovery machine. And to be honest, I'm surprised that he's only owned by 2% of the game. I think last season, at one point, he was owned by pretty much half the game because he just offers so many ball recoveries. Look, 52, and look how many minutes he played because Zenit got knocked out in the group stages. So Wilmar Barrios, fantastic fantasy asset because of that ball recovery system, and he could do the business. He tends to get yellow cards and red cards. I always say this every year because I always pick him. He's a bit more expensive than he was at the start of last season, but 5 million for Wilmar Barrios. Yeah, tough fixtures like Juventus and Chelsea, but I still expect him to get 3 to 5 points every week, and for 5 million, you can't really complain. And then looking at the rest of the midfield, I've got İlkay Gündoğan at 7 million. I'll be honest, I know he scored against Arsenal, and I actually had him before that happened. By the way, I'm not reactionary. I'm not too convinced by him as a fantasy asset this season, but because he also has ball recoveries in his arsenal, and then he's got other stuff to go with it, like attacking threat, then I do like Gündoğan as an asset for 7 million, and I'm not too convinced by the others. But of course, with more research, with more games to be played before match day 1, this could change. But İlkay Gündoğan is currently in relatively tough group, but he can still do pretty well, to be honest, and he tends to do really well in the group stages actually. Even 2 seasons ago, before his kind of explosive run in the 2020-21 season, he still did very well in the group stages of the previous campaign, so that's something worth considering. And then another ball recovery merchant, you could say, is Casemiro. 51 points despite not playing that much. I mean, he's just a complete beast in terms of ball recovery points, and he's someone to look at as well. Maybe what you could say about this team is there's too many of these kind of ball recovery players like Jorginho, Casemiro, and also Wilmar Barrios. That is potentially a kind of a weakness, but you still have a bit of depth there, and you have 3 players who pretty much play every single game. They're integral to their side, and they can get you 3 to 5 points, and they're relatively cheap and allow you to invest in your attack, your defense, and also in a premium like Mohamed Salah. So I still like this team. I like Casemiro, but maybe what I would do overall is maybe go off one of these ball recovery midfielders and invest elsewhere, or at least invest more money into the midfield. Now let's look at Braithwaite. You know, instead of Messi, let's look at Braithwaite, his replacement. I'm not sure if he's going to play every single game, to be honest, but he's 6 million, and I think against Benfica and Dynamo Kiev, he could start and even do really well. In the Champions League last season, he did pretty decent actually in the group stages, and you know, for his price, you can't really complain. Even for Denmark at the Euros, was pretty impressive. So Braithwaite is someone worth considering at least, but of course you would want to invest more money elsewhere if you can. And then Erling Haaland, like I alluded to earlier, the best Champions League forward of the last few seasons alongside Lewandowski. He's 11 million, so I would say he's arguably underpriced. Last season he experienced a big price rise from around 4.5 million the previous campaign to around 11 million, and he's still the same pretty much, but 62 points, got knocked out early. He's owned by half the game, and with good reason, and his group is sensational. So he's someone that I had before the groups were announced. I'm probably not going to be changing him because the group is the most appealing out of the kind of premium forwards that we have on offer. So Erling Haaland is looking sensational. And now time for one of the greatest of all time, if not the greatest, Lionel Messi. 38% ownership. He's got a relatively tough group, but a great opening fixture, and he is set to make his debut today for Paris Saint-Germain. And of course, you know, what can you say about Messi? He's got everything. You know, he's got free kicks. He's on penalties pretty much. He can score all types of goals. He can get so many assists as well and create so many chances. He can score from outside the box. He's got it all. We know about Messi. We don't have to talk about him too much. But of course, it might be worth seeing him adapt to PSG a bit and seeing a bit of consistency in terms of goal output in the league before maybe investing in him. So he is actually someone who I might go off, and I might not even start with him this season. And look at his price, 11 million for Messi. Same with Ronaldo. Very, very cheap, to be honest, considering the caliber of player we're talking about. But at the same time, I mean, he's the same price as Haaland, who, to be honest, in Champions League has been much better in terms of goals in the last few seasons. There's also Lewandowski, who is slightly more expensive, and he's also been doing the goods in the last few Champions League seasons. But Messi, never count him out, and he's playing in a much better team now compared to last season. I think he could do the business. In terms of the two chips I talked about, the wildcard, it's the same as in FPL. So you can make unlimited changes to your team, and they are permanent. They stick all the way up until the end. But remember, you get unlimited changes anyway heading into the round of 16. So that's something worth considering, and I'll break this down once again in my tutorial videos that are to come in the channel. So don't worry about that. So yeah, you can just change anyone you want. There's going to be no hits. You're not going to lose any points, and yeah, the changes are permanent. But of course, something I would consider is playing the wild card in the knockout stages, because if a lot of your players get eliminated, you want to avoid taking hits. You want to try have good squad depth even on your bench, so you can just maximize your opportunities for points. Then the Limitless is pretty much like a free hit chip in FPL, so you can make as many changes as you want for 1 week, but of course it only lasts for that 1 week. It doesn't carry over, and then going into the next match day, you go into it with the team that you had from pretty much 2 match days ago. So hopefully that is clear. But the big difference between the free hit and the Limitless is that you have no budget restrictions. That's why it's called the Limitless chip. So you could have, in essence, Messi, Ronaldo, Lewandowski up front. In midfield, you could have Kevin De Bruyne, Salah, Bruno Fernandes, all these kind of expensive players, Eden Hazard. In defense, you could have Trent, Kimmich, Hakimi, etc. So pretty much you can build whatever you want, obviously, meeting the requirements of 3 forwards, 5 midfielders, 5 defenders, and 2 goalkeepers, of course. And in terms of why I talk about having a good bench is because you can actually have multiple captains, and also you can make changes between the Tuesday and the Wednesday. So let me actually talk you through it and show you. On the 14th, a problem with this team, as you can see, is I have too many players playing on the 14th actually. Yeah. Oh no, on the 15th. On the 14th, I've barely got anyone. This is the problem. So that's something I can rectify in a future draft. But basically, for example, I've got Azpilicueta captain right now. I know that sounds ridiculous, but that's because from the players playing on the 14th, I just think he has the best chances of getting really good points. So Azpilicueta's captain, and then let's say he doesn't do well. I can then change the captaincy during the substitution window, which you can see here. It will show you the substitution windows, and it obviously lasts up until the deadline of the next game. the following day. Then I can make the captain Lionel Messi, Haaland, Salah, etc. So I'm a bit sport for choice, but you can also not only change your captain, you can make substitutions. So all these players playing on the 14th, let's say Braithwaite blanks, Barrios and Azpilicueta, I can substitute them out for Van Dijk, Gundogan and Casemiro. So hopefully that is clear for you. And also that's why a lot of people go for 2 goalkeepers as well. So they have one playing on the 14th and then one playing on the 15th. So just kind of bear that in mind as well. Try to have good squad depth because you can make the substitutions yourself, unlike FPL where everything's automatic and you have to rely on players not starting or playing at all in order for you to get your substitutions on. So hopefully that clears everything up. But of course, like I said before, I'll be doing a tutorial video, multiple tutorial videos if you want, discussing and explaining all of these things just so that's all clear for you. So hopefully you'll understand that. And of course, Azpilicueta is not an ideal captain. You know, I completely recognize that. And I'm a bit spoiled for choice on the 15th. I'd probably be captaining Messi on the 15th as this team stands, but in the end, I may go for something else. So that is pretty much my first draft. Of course, there's a lot of ways to improve it. Let me know what you think down in the comment section below. Also, feel free to share your teams in the comment section too. And remember to smash the like button and subscribe if you're new and all that good stuff. And here are some alternative picks. I'll go through them briefly because I don't want this video to go on for too long. And also, we'll be discussing this in future videos anyway when we have more information and probably after the international break is over. So things are a bit more clear. So Ederson, as I discussed before, him and Mendy pretty much are part of 2 of the best defenses in Europe. So Ederson, despite being 6 million and his ceiling isn't going to be higher than 6 points really, I think he is still worth it and he's nailed. He's going to be playing every single game pretty much. So I would recommend him. The only thing I would say that's going against him is that he's got tougher fixtures than Mendy. So I would prefer going for the Chelsea goalkeeper. In terms of other goalkeepers, I'll be honest, none of them really stand out to me. I'm probably going to be going for De Gea. Originally, I would have said Matchday, but because of the fixtures for Porto, I'd probably stay clear from that group in terms of at least going for Zaidu and Matchday. I'd only go for 1 max, and because Zaidu is 4.5 million and he can get a lot of ball recovery points, he's still worth it. But Matchday, I'm just not too keen on him. So De Gea has got good fixtures. If he starts for Manchester United in the Champions League, then I think he is probably one of the best goalkeeper options at 5.5 million. But if not, it will be Dean Henderson. So that's something to keep an eye on. In terms of the defence, Rudiger, he's pretty much nailed. He's going to start most games. Although with the Premier League as well and other competitions, Tuchel will be rotating in the defence. Even Rudiger is not going to be exempt from that, so just keep an eye on that situation. As for the rest of the defence, these are all going to be quite expensive picks. There's also Hakimi, who could be very, very explosive as he tends to be. But there's Kimmich. I don't know how he's still registered as a defender. In Euro 2020 Fantasy Football, he was actually a midfielder at 6 million, I believe. But yeah, he can get clean sheets, assists, goals. He's even good from outside the box, and you get an extra point for each goal you score outside the box. So that's something worth considering too. 6.5 million is a bit expensive, but with the attacking potential that's there, he could be worth it. But what I would say about Bayern is that the defence isn't too solid in my opinion. Then there's also Trent Alexander-Arnold. If you don't want to go for Van Dijk and you want a bit more attacking potential, then Trent can do the business, and he does recover the ball a lot. Same with Robertson, so he is also worth considering, and I might end up getting him anyway. So it's worth highlighting him just in case. He is owned by a lot of people in the game anyway. And then there's Shaw or Wan-Bissaka. You could go for either one of them. Varane's another, and even Harry Maguire. But Wan-Bissaka is only 5 million and he can recover the ball a lot, and he doesn't tend to get too many yellow cards, although I probably just jinxed them there. So that's worth considering too. And in terms of other defenders, there's also Diego Carlos. So if you don't want to go for Zaidu, you could always go for Diego Carlos at the same price. A relatively decent group. I think Sevilla can top it and get a few clean sheets, although last season Koundé let me down massively. He was 4 million and he just didn't really do well, to be honest. But hopefully Diego Carlos can do the business this time around, and that is pretty much the defence. Then looking at the midfield, similar to Jorginho, we've got N'Golo Kante, pretty much just for the ball recovery points. And for the Champions League final, I actually benched him and he ended up getting a lot of ball recovery points in that particular match. So I shouldn't have done that. But yeah, with Kante, it's pretty much just for that stat, and he's very cheap. only 5.5 million, so I think he is worth it. He's owned by a lot of the game for that reason, so yeah, he's definitely worth considering. Then there's Bruno Fernandes. I'm not too keen on him now compared to before with Ronaldo coming in, but he can still be a good asset, and 10.5 million is a good price, and with that group he can still get some goals despite not having penalties really to rely on. At least that's what you would think anyway, but we'll wait and see what happens there. Then there's Kevin De Bruyne. He's always an option and he's so explosive, but we have to wait and see how he recovers from his injury. And with Manchester City, they have Grealish, Mahrez and so many other options you can go for, but De Bruyne is the pick of the bunch when he is available, and he always tends to be a differential. So if he is fit, he's going to play most of the games up until Manchester City have pretty much qualified. But of course, with that PSG fixture, spending 11 million on a player, probably not ideal in my opinion. Then looking at the other two midfielders is a bit of an interesting one. Juventus are looking really poor. They actually lost 1-0 at home to Empoli, but they can improve. They do have Allegri back and they can win Serie A once again. But Cuadrado, he's got a bit of everything. He's 8 million this year, so it's a big jump in price, but he can get assists and he's just such a reliable player for Juventus. So he's one to keep an eye on, but I have to say he might be a tad overpriced. That is something to consider. But if he can have some good end product for his crosses, then definitely he's worth it, because he is a great cross of the ball. He can get a lot of assists, he creates a lot of chances, and he can get the occasional goal here and there. But if he does play at right back, for example, which might not be as common under Allegri, but if that does happen, maybe he is someone to steer clear of. But otherwise, worth considering. And then there's Wijnaldum, who for the Netherlands, he plays in such an offensive role. He could do something similar with PSG, especially in the group stages of the Champions League. 7 million is a decent price. He can get some ball recovery points too. He's one to keep an eye on more than anything. He's not someone I definitely go out of my way to get, and I need to see more from these kind of 7 to 9 million pound players in the midfield, to be honest, but we'll wait and see. And it's technically Euros, isn't it, with the Champions League? But yeah, Wijnaldum, one to keep an eye on for sure. But of course, Mbappe, Neymar and Messi at this moment in time definitely overshadow him, and you can just go for them in attack. And then speaking of the attack, here we go. We've got Ronaldo up front. He's technically playing for Juventus, but of course he'll be joining Manchester United very shortly. And yeah, the fixtures are so good for Manchester United, and I think Ronaldo could be a great captaincy option. 11 million for Ronaldo is fantastic. Considering the fixtures that United have, I think he can hit the ground running and improve his Champions League record even further. So he's definitely one to keep an eye on, and yeah, he could be kind of the difference. You might even want to go for him over Messi because he has a better Champions League group. Messi is facing Manchester City after all, which could be very tough. And then Lewandowski, he's just been so good in the Champions League. Even Barcelona, home and away, he can do the business. Scored a hat-trick the other day. This guy is just a machine. And 11.5 million, he's slightly more expensive than, all these other players, but he's worth it. And I think he is someone that might end up in my team in the end. And he's just been so consistent. And if you look at 2 seasons ago, he was unplayable in the Champions League, absolutely on another level to everyone else, and he can do it once again for Bayern Munich. And then we've got Depay. So if you don't want to go for Braithwaite, Depay for 2.5 million more will be worth it. He's going to be nailed. He's going to be involved in most of the goals that Barcelona score. But of course, it's a good price. 8.5 million. He's actually gone down. But then again, Barcelona is such an iffy team and they have Bayern Munich first, so maybe it's best to stay clear for now and reassess afterwards, especially after Matchday 2, because then they have a double header against Dynamo Kiev. But he's definitely one to keep an eye on, Depay. And there's so many strikers, as we know, that we can go for. Mbappe, he scored 2 goals for PSG today, and Neymar. I mean, we're kind of spoiled for choice really in Champions League. We've got so many forwards to choose from, but yeah, these are kind of some of the best ones that you can go for at different price points. Let me know what you also think as well of this, and if you enjoy this video, smash the like button and subscribe if you're new around here. We're trying to get to 4,000 subscribers and we're almost there, so I'd really appreciate that last push. And yeah, just thank you for all the support really. I'm trying to get more content out for UCL Fantasy and FPL over the coming days and weeks, even during the international break. That will be the aim. But yeah, of course, yeah, any feedback on how to improve the videos would be much appreciated, and I'll definitely be listening, especially good constructive criticism. I'm all ears for that. And yeah, just good luck with Champions League Fantasy this season, and if you're not sure of playing it, you know, maybe give it a go and see if you enjoy it. But of course, it's very difficult to kind of balance that with FPL and then any other kind of fantasy games you're playing at the same time. But yeah, don't worry about it. It is fun. It's quite different, and it does require kind of micromanaging to a certain extent with all the substitutions and, you know, changing in captaincy. But at the same time, gives you a bit more freedom, in my opinion. But yeah, thank you very much for watching. There'll be more UCL fantasy videos coming to the channel, so check out the playlist and check out all the other deadline streams and videos to come, and I'll see you next time.